Welcome into the Roundtable for January 17th. Alongside Big Man on Campus, Donnie Rightside, Ian Cameron. I'm your host, Drew Martin. We're going to be hitting on all things championship weekend betting, how we hitting the games this weekend, also some college basketball and some Canadian sports with Ian Cameron, maybe some NHL, possible offseason CFL news. How we looking to bet it, guys? Three of the best minds in the sports betting industry. Started off with Big Man on Campus. Find him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. Jeff, what's on your mind today?
Doing good, Drew. Having a little bit of a video issue here. Hopefully it'll get worked out. I know everybody wants to see what I look like. So doing good. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Just plug through. And his partner in crime, Donnie Rightside, Mr. NFL. Find him on Twitter at RightSideVP. Donnie, welcome in. Championship weekend. How you feeling?
Feeling good about it. Hey, man, this is those times that you remember and you relish heading down to the ballpark with your pops, with your family members. And I always joke around with my wife and anybody in my family. This game is the one that you want to put the women and children to bed because the werewolves are going to come out. 6:30 start in Philadelphia, mid-50s range weather all day long. Watch out. There might be some arrests. I don't know if anybody's going to punch horses this week, but hopefully we get a nice outcome here in the Philadelphia area.
Yeah, the Philadelphia area should be hydrated a little bit later in the day. Game start should be fun to watch. Ian Cameron, find him on Twitter at Babano. Ian, welcome in, buddy.
Ian,
You might be on mute, buddy.
There we go. I was on mute. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, Roundtable, one of my favorite shows. Happy to be here as always. It's funny because in the TV in the background, we've got an Eagles-Rams NFC Championship Classic from like 10 or 15 years ago on. Kurt Warner versus Donovan McNabb. I know for two of my friends here and cohorts on the Roundtable, they're open for a different result this Sunday when the Eagles take the field.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see Jeff and Donnie's opinion on this game. Guys, wanted to start off with a statement here. I know I warned you guys before. Also add in some sports betting angle to it. Minnesota Vikings could be the first home team to host the Super Bowl. What comes to your mind when you hear that statement? Also, would you factor in them possibly being either the home or the away team sitting in their home locker room or their away locker room into the handicap? What's on your guys' opinion as far as futures betting into the Super Bowl? Donnie, you want to start us off with that statement?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one, and I know you brought that up, which I didn't even really, look into it or see what, because it's such a rare anomaly out there. The Dallas Cowboys are trying to get there in Jerry World, and it's a very infrequent situation. It hasn't happened a lot, but I could see the mind games that go on. Let's just say the New England Patriots win this week. The ultimate mind game guy that's out there is Bill Belichick. He's going to want to press for and make sure that they get Minnesota's locker room and you get the visitors' locker room just to throw off that time, because as we know, Drew, playing football or any sport throughout the year, most of us are creatures of habit. You're coming to your home stadium. You're excited. Oh, my God, we're finally going to play a Super Bowl in a home stadium. What an advantage. And instead of you pulling up to your normal parking spot, entering into the stadium during your normal tunnel, you're going opposite there. One, to play with the mind. It's a good thing to think about because the AFC is going to want that Minnesota locker room just to throw off the normalcy of heading to a ball game on a Sunday there in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's an interesting aspect, and Ian, you brought up some facts. I think you were just reading up about it before the show started. What did you find?
Which tells you how little I think of that angle in terms of who the home team is, because I had to look it up to see what the hell was going on with it. But yeah, it alternates year to year, AFC to NFC. And this year the AFC is going to be the designated home team. So next year it would be the NFC. So from that standpoint, if Minnesota happens to get past the Eagles this Sunday, they are the visiting team. They are the road team in their own building there at US Bank Stadium, which would be a unique set of circumstances. But to me, Drew, it doesn't matter to me one iota. Home team, road team. What matters to me is momentum. What matters to me is the price we get on the Super Bowl. What matters to me is the matchups on the field. That's going to be the first and foremost thing I look at betting the Super Bowl. It always is. Props are a big part of my Super Bowl portfolio from a betting standpoint. In fact, I'm probably 50-50 props to side total wagers. In fact, I might even be heavier on the props than I am side and total wagers in the Super Bowl. But yeah, in terms of this home team business, Bill Belichick, it wouldn't surprise me, as Donnie mentioned, using that as a little bit of a motivational tool and some kind of way to put that into his pregame speech. The hoodie's good to do that probably. But from a betting standpoint, to me, how much of an impact does it make? Hardly any.
And Jeff, any follow-up on that? Do you feel like you put any emphasis into that aspect, and also any betting angle at all going into futures into the Super Bowl?
Well, look, I mean, if Minnesota loses, and I'm freezing up here, at least you can still hear me. I don't think it's going to matter either way. So if Minnesota loses, we don't got to worry about it. Both the teams will be road teams anyway. I don't think what locker room they play in will have much, much, much issue with the game. We'll see, Drew. I mean, as Ian said, it's all about the spot, what the line is, who we're dealing with here, the things off the field. So yeah, I don't put a ton of stock into that. No.
By the way,
Okay.
Drew,
Well,
talking just to feed off of that, like that whole Minnesota
yeah.
vibe there, like nice little conspiracy theory. Since we have some time, there's only 2 football games. Minnesota being the home team here. When you get a new stadium, sometimes the NFL likes to throw you a bone and say, you know what? Watch the economic impact of the opposing teams coming into your city, where you're going to get the restaurants, the hotels, nights on the town, the bars. Everybody makes off of this. And then you think back and say, what a great thing is if Minnesota is the home team in here. But when you're looking back, if you are a restaurant, if you're a hotel, if you're a bar, you want Philadelphia fans pouring into your city, spending thousands of dollars at your best restaurants, drinking all the beer you have in the city. If you're Minnesota, you already been there, done that. You might just stay at your house. You might just go to your normal local pizza joint. You're not going to get that influx of dollars if Minnesota's the home team, because you don't need a hotel room if you already live in Minneapolis.
Yeah, interesting point. I mean, from an economic view, they might actually not be rooting for the Vikings. But guys, hey, good start to the show here. We want to get breaking down the game. Say what's up to the chat box. Conrado from Auburn, what's up, bro? Guan, Brady, Steve, welcome in. Let us know what you guys want to hear. Also, please give us a thumbs up, the like button. And Jeff, just so you know, we can hear you fine. So if you're freezing up, don't worry about it. We got the sound here. But guys, let's start off 3-11, 3-12 championship weekend. Looks like 3:05 start. Jacksonville versus New England. SBR odds right now looks like we're showing 9.5, 8.5 at some shops, Heritage, some 9s. So this is a good. If you're looking to bet the side, it's a good time to be shopping around. Use SBR odds for that. How are we looking to bet this? You looking at Jacksonville traveling up northeast and catching almost double-digit points? Guys, will we see double-digit points? You think we'll see a 10 as the public keeps betting this? Donnie, you want to start us off with Jacksonville, New England?
Yeah, real quick, we'll get right off on that total. Do I think you're going to see 10s out there? I do not think you're going to see 10s out there. That's just too many points in a AFC type battle, because again, you're looking at teams that just want to win this football game. I always like to say in the pros, especially in the playoffs, there's no style points. You're just looking to win, advance, and move on in that situation. Get to the Super Bowl is what the hard thing is. I rooted for Jacksonville all year long. My 2 dark horses, one in the NFC was the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, they got outed by the New Orleans Saints early, but Jacksonville was the other team in the AFC that I was looking at, because they can put it all together. When you watch Jacksonville over the season, most people just think Blake Bortles and, oh my God, they just want to run the football. But there's quite a few times that team has put up a lot of points and yards. Case in point, last week, going on the road to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. You see the type of offense that they can put out, but you're looking at a daunting task here. When you're looking at New England at home, last 3 games they played at home, not the greatest offenses, not the greatest ball clubs. 37-16 versus Buffalo, 26-6 versus the New York Jets, and 35-14 versus Tennessee. They did whatever they wanted to. The one thing we see with Jacksonville, just to make some early points, is if you have a competent quarterback and can protect your quarterback, there are some passing lanes that open up versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, which who better to exploit than Tom Brady?
True. Good point there, Donnie. Ian, any follow-up to that?
Yeah, passing lanes to the tune of what Ben Roethlisberger did to that defense last week. Let's not forget, even though Jacksonville won that game 45-42, I didn't like the way the Steelers receivers were able to run downfield, gain separation, and basically beat some of these so-called elite Jacksonville corners. And yet one of those elite corners, Jalen Ramsey, gets flapping his gums at a dopey little rally earlier this week saying we're going to win the Super Bowl. How many people were at that rally at Everbank Field? 60 people? I mean, holy goodness. Can you get a little more excited, Jacksonville? It's not often you get to the AFC Championship game. Let's go. Let's support the team a little bit. Holy fuck. Nobody was there. It was a bunch of people coming it's a costume party. Everybody came dressed as empty seats to that thing. I mean, absolutely disgraceful, if you ask me, if you're Jacksonville. But that's their fan base. It's taken them a while to get used to this team and get excited, and that's the case here. Nevertheless, to me, that's the concern for Jacksonville. There were some opportunities and plays made down the field throwing the football for Ben last week. even though they lost that football game. Let's not forget, Jacksonville built up that big lead. How did they do that? They ran the football. They feasted on Pittsburgh turnovers, the Big Ben fumble, and then there was an interception in there as well. They garnered that big lead. The offense really bogged down a lot in the second half. Blake Bortles, give him credit. As much as we've railed on him, he made a couple nice throws in the fourth quarter to really put that game on ice for Jacksonville, give them a chance to actually finally put it away. But that's going to be the concern. You've left Pittsburgh the opportunity to make plays down the field. New England with Tom Brady is certainly capable of doing that. However, I'm not convinced in this New England receiving core to get open like the Pittsburgh receivers did. Who in this New England receiving core, especially deep down the field, is going to gain separation from these Jacksonville corners? Pittsburgh's got guys that can separate from you. Martavis Bryant. We know Antonio Brown can do it as good as anybody. Who on this New England receiving core has got that elite level, top level speed and receiving play on the outside to be able to gain separation from a Jalen Ramsey and some of these Jacksonville cornerbacks? That's the key. Yes, Pittsburgh made plays, but I think the Pittsburgh receiving core more adept to make plays against Jacksonville's secondary, which is usually good, than maybe this New England receiving core. Good over the middle. We know Gronkowski's amazing. We know Amendola's been a huge target, especially last week for Tom Brady and this New England offense. But gaining separation, I don't think is going to be as easy for New England's edge receivers to do as it was for Pittsburgh's.
Donnie, do you believe in that case, that the wide receiver versus Jacksonville cornerback matchup? And also, what about Fournette running the ball? I mean, you think that they can actually control the clock offensively and kind of take it to the New England defense?
I don't know. The thing that's going to come in, when you looked at the past couple of games, it looks like as the season went on, we all laughed at New England's defense there, and will they get it together? Maybe Bill Belichick and Patricia don't have the right components over there, but they've really clamped down, especially on the run in the past games, and that's going to be key here because Jacksonville's going to want to come in this football game and work on that clock, because if you can keep the ball away from Tom Brady, that's going to increase your advantages there. If you're taking a look from an offensive perspective, when you're looking at Jacksonville, they're going to want to run Fournette. If you can stop Fournette, the main thing that everybody tries to do is, which Blake Bortles are we going to get in this football game? Are we going to get the one in Pittsburgh that was throwing dimes down the field where there's light wind, which, keep in mind again, when we saw him versus Buffalo in a 20-mile-an-hour wind, he was completely incompetent. But last week in cold weather and no wind, he was able to throw dimes out there. Looks like in New England this week, maybe 45, 46 degrees and light wind. That's going to help Blake Bortles. But again, getting back to the point, which Blake Bortles are you going to get? Some guy that's going to throw for 300 yards, protect the football, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, maybe pick up a first down or 2 with his feet on a key third down? Or are you going to get the one that Bill Belichick is going to say, you know what? I'm going to throw 8 people in the box exactly the way the Buffalo Bills did, and say, there's no way in hell you're going to be able to beat me downfield, and I'm going to make you make throws over there. Bill Belichick, Matt Patricia, geniuses at taking away what you want to do, a la run the football, and say, Blake Bortles, if you beat us, you'll advance to the Super Bowl. I don't think you could beat us.
No, great point, Donnie. And just checking the weather right now as a follow-up, yeah, you pretty much had it. 46 degrees, looks like 8-mile-per-hour winds in Foxborough, not in Boston. They are 2 different places, in case you were wondering. Big man on campus, welcome back, man. Any opinion on Jacksonville, New England? We're just kind of making a case for one way or the other. Looks like 9.5 to 8.5, depending where you shop. 46 the total. How you looking to bet it?
I think it's a tough game. I think it's got to be New England, though. If if I'm thinking about it, I think we've seen over the last, 4 or 5 weeks, and I know we'll point out the Buffalo game and say, well, they held them to 3 points, but other than that, I mean, Jacksonville's arguably been very beatable defensively. I mean, they've given up over 40 points a couple different times. One of those offenses was the 49ers. They also did it obviously last week. It wasn't anything their defense did last week. I mean, they were hard, just like the Steelers were. Tom Brady's should be able to handle that defense. I think you could beat them with screens across the middle. If the middle opens up, the game's over. I mean, Edelman and or Amendola and Gronkowski, they'll handle that. I don't have a ton on this game. I know Donnie and Ian probably have better opinions than I do on it. I don't really have an opinion much on the game. I lean Patriots. I kind of like the other game a little bit more.
Okay. And yeah, Conrado brings up a good point. We're talking about over the middle with Gronk. He says Gronk over yards and receptions worked for me last week. Donnie, are there any props in this game that you were looking at, or Ian?
Makes sense to me.
I haven't taken a look at the prop board yet. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does make a little bit of sense to me. I will say a bet. And I said this in the chat. I am definitely leaning toward Jacksonville, but New England, what are they now? 10-1 against the spread their last 11 games. What did they end last season? 9-1 against the spread their last 10 games en route to that Super Bowl and that epic comeback against Atlanta. It's just so damn difficult, even with the numbers you're being asked to lay with this New England team week by week. It's so difficult to go against them. One way I'm going to look to get at this game, though, for Jacksonville, I'd be more inclined to bet them first half in this game rather than the full game. Take them first half. We have seen instances that even at home this year where New England's been a little bit sluggish early in the football game. Let's not forget Tennessee got the jump on them last week, got the first touchdown, 7-0 early lead. I would be much more inclined to trust Jacksonville for the first 30 minutes of this football game rather than for the full game. So if you're asking me my strongest stance and opinion right now from a betting standpoint, I'd probably look at Jacksonville first half more than I would full game because we've seen it time and time again. It's been New England rout after New England rout second half of these games, especially at the old Shaving Dome there at the Gillette Stadium. So I'm looking at a situation where if I played Jacksonville, I'd probably like them a lot more just in the first half.
And keep in mind, I mean, this New England team, we know how good they are against the number. I mean, they've covered 19 of 25 at home. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And look, I mean, I think the blueprint I've said all for the last several weeks, I think, is there on Jacksonville's defense. I mean, do we really think Blake Bortles, who they now call the BOAT, do we really think that he's going to have two great games in a row? It's the BOAT against the GOAT, and we know who's going to win this battle.
Yeah, when you're talking about Jeff, you bring up a good point there when you
against the
say
goat.
like how well they play at home and how well they cover at home. If you're looking for Bortles, he can't throw for 90 yards like he did for Buffalo and beat this football team. Early on in the season, I talked about New England had their struggles. The one key ingredient when you look at pass yards per attempt, you're looking to maybe gash the defense and have that around 10, 30 passes per game, 10-yard average, 300 yards. We can really get after them. After that Carolina game, 6.8 versus Atlanta at home, 6.4 versus the Chargers. Then you're looking at Miami came up to Foxborough, 4.5 yards per pass attempt. If you scroll it up there, also Buffalo 6.4, Jets 5.8, Tennessee 5.5. That is amazing defense to end the year in Foxborough. If you're going to throw teams that are going to have per pass attempt 6 and 7 yards or less, there's no way in hell Jacksonville is even going to have a shot in this football game.
Here's the question I have, Drew Martin. I know you're a UCF guy. If Jacksonville lose, will they have a parade like the UCF Knights?
Champions?
Will they have a parade? Because hey, I mean, they almost got there and almost won. And in Florida, we all know that all they do is crown.
Nope, Jeff,
We lost you there at the end.
I'm reading his lips right now. Yeah. He's saying if they win the parade, is everybody going to be able to scream Duval County? And you're from the state of Florida, Drew. Did you ever run into anybody that just yelled out Duval on a whim out there just to let them know what county they were from?
Yeah, I did actually. My cousin lived in Jacksonville Beach, and it's a great place, really fun. And I went to visit her. We went to a Jags game and all. Yeah. But by the way,
Drew,
you don't even need tickets.
You have to admit that UCF parade was a little ridiculous. Now, come on. That was moronic.
I mean, I don't know. I guess so. Yeah, you're right. But I think it's kind of moronic that they went undefeated, beat Auburn, and they didn't have a chance to win the national title either.
Again, that's not what we're talking about here. That's not their.
Yeah, but you got to blame the system. Blame the system.
Right.
If you're having a problem with that, if you're screaming and yelling about that, make it an 8-team playoff. Make it a 16-team playoff. That's the solution.
Or move to a better conference.
Yeah.
I believe they tried to, and for whatever reason they weren't able to. I think that they'd be a great get for a bigger conference, though. Bring in the Orlando market, the Florida market outside of the SEC. I think it'd be good, or the ACC. But hey guys, back to the NFL. Good conversation there. Jacksonville, New England. We got Minnesota, Philadelphia coming up, and the winner of the last game versus the winner of this game, obviously in the Super Bowl. And here at SBR, we are going to do a special Super Bowl kind of celebration show sponsored by Bet Online. So stay tuned to that. It's going to be a big event, bunch of prop betting, bunch of side total betting. Who's winning the coin toss, who's singing the national anthem, how long it's going to go. It's all going to be covered in this event presented by
Drew,
Bet Online. Go ahead.
For that Super Bowl party, will we have handicappers on to break down the coin toss, or?
I believe we should. I think there is a lot of talent involved in calling that.
Ed Fang does
Trent's
have
from
a program that does predict what the coin flip will be. He has it at 50.01%, if you want to.
And there's also trends from 1980 as well.
Who's singing the national
That's Mark
anthem?
Lawrence's
Do we
band.
know?
That's Mark Lawrence.
I don't know. I know JT's at the hand. Who is singing the national anthem? Did they give that up as like Pink or somebody? Did I hear?
I don't know. I'll tell you this: it's gone over the last 2 or 3 years on the time because I've lost on it. I've taken the under.
I know
According to what
the
I'm
big
seeing,
thing. I know in Philadelphia this weekend, it's usually they're probably going to run out like Ruben Studdard again since it's on Fox for the national anthem in Philadelphia. That's usually standard for the course.
they're singing America the Beautiful and national anthem, and
Ooh,
Pink is singing the national anthem.
Oh, there we go. That's right.
Pink?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, she's from Philadelphia, by the way. So just remember that, people.
That's another angle. It's another angle.
There you go.
Do we like? I kind of like Pink. I don't know. I
Don't
feel
let
weird
me
Can't
admitting.
say I like Pink, but hey.
Donnie, save me here. You like Pink?
Why not? I like anybody from Philadelphia. It's going to give us an advantage in the Super Bowl, and maybe she tips people off. Maybe she comes on the radio locally and says, look, it's going to be a really long anthem, so get ready. Maybe a little bit of betting info that we can use.
Yeah, good stuff, guys. Yeah, it's going to be a great celebration here at SBR. Good event. A lot of prop betting, but we got 313, 314. The later game, Minnesota versus Philadelphia. Looks like -3 pretty much across the board. Do shop around for the juice. Different books have different juice here. 38.5 the total, a 39 at Bovada. Ian, you want to start us off? How you looking to bet the NFC Championship game?
Well, I know three of us are going to be busy beavers during that game. Donnie and Big Man are going to be there in person watching it. Morency and I are going to take you through the betcast, do it through this Eagles-Vikings game on Sunday. So it's going to be a fun game to watch. Very, very tough game for me to handicap here because every fiber in my being wants to say, unfortunately, to the dismay of Donnie and Jeff, that Minnesota wins this football game. But the problem I have still is that Case Keenum, for as good as he played last week, he was playing just relaxed, breathing in, breathing out, at home, had a comfortable lead for about 2.5 quarters in that football game. Things started to get a little interesting. New Orleans finally punches it in. They held Minnesota's offense in check, held them at 17 for well over a quarter. They got that first touchdown, 17-7, and then I saw a panic moment from Case Keenum. Threw that ball way up in the air, never should have. Terrible decision, gets picked off, and then all of a sudden it's game on. And very fortunate Minnesota. We don't need to talk about the miracle again. You've heard it a million times on mainstream television. Your Skip Baylesses and Stephen A's have talked about it left and right. We know what happened there. Stephon Diggs making that catch. The fact of the matter remains that if this game is going to be close throughout, and I expect it's going to be a tight slugfest of a battle, two good defenses here. Case Keenum now is going to be in a much tighter game for a much longer duration of the game, and this time he's going to have to do it on the road in outdoor colder weather. So let's see what he does here in this game. That's the thing that's keeping me away from. And the prices, too, not what I was expecting a little bit. I mean, you got to lay pretty much 3, even 3.5 early in the week with Minnesota here on the road in this football game. And it's another opportunity for Philadelphia to say, hey, one more time, just like they played that card to perfection last week against Atlanta. We're the number 1 NFC seed playing at home, and we're a home underdog for a second straight week. Maybe not quite as shocking that they're a home underdog in this game as it was last week against Atlanta, considering my Minnesota to me is a good notch or two better than Atlanta. But still, it's one of those little angles. Philadelphia can play it up in the locker room all week long that, hey, we're an underdog again at home, something they could use as a motivational chip. I think Minnesota wins this game, but boy, I could see it exactly landing right on 3. A field goal victory either way. Even if Philly wins, it wouldn't shock me. Nick Foles, though, against that defense, it's going to be a very big challenge for him. There were times he did enough moving the football last week. There were times that he was just way inaccurate with the football and was lucky he didn't have a pick or two in that game. You got to rely on Jay Ajayi running the football, but you also got to rely on Jay Ajayi to hold on to the damn rock. And that was an issue for him last week with an early fumble that obviously Philadelphia doesn't come back to bite them, but you got to have him have that better ball security than that here in this game. So I think Minnesota advances, but there's something in the pit of my gut saying I'm not comfortable laying a full field goal on the road here.
Donnie, what about the quarterback situation here, and how you looking to bet Minnesota, Philadelphia?
Yeah, I mean, if you're taking a look overall, if you're watching last week, you know, I mean, I was rooting for anybody coming into the playoffs but Carolina for that fast physical front seven. You're going to get one from Minnesota, but the trade-off here is you don't get the dynamic guy at quarterback. If you get Cam Newton and if it's cold weather, you know he's going to be able to run the football, escape the pressure, which is what Philadelphia wants to do. Same thing with Drew Brees if he came to town last week. The one thing that you know, the New Orleans defense is not as good, but you have a Hall of Fame, one of the best all-time quarterbacks coming to town. That's not the case here with Case Keenum. And also, Ian brings up a great point. When you are at home and you have a really good defense, and the opposing team can't make changes at the line, the play clock's running down, you can't hear yourself, the defense gets to jump quicker sometimes than the tackles do because they can't hear the snap count. That's not going to be the case here in Philadelphia. And if you're looking at an Eagles team that comes down the field and plays defense, how about under 13 points a game for the entire season? You saw one of those teams come in last week, Atlanta, hot. Nobody's going to be able to beat them. Oh my God, Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, the running game, nobody's going to be able to stop them. Atlanta scored 10 points last week on grass, outdoors, in some questionable weather, and the Philadelphia Eagles spotted them 7 by fumbling a punt on their own 18-yard line. This is another one of those games that's going to be low scoring. Who's going to make that mistake first? Looking at the game last week, the Eagles made all the mistakes. Each running back fumbled the football each in the first half. 1, 2, 3, Ajayi, Clement, Blunt, all traded fumbles in the first half. The Eagles spotted them a touchdown. The Eagles let them drive at the end of the football game with a chance to win, and they still prevailed. Keep in mind on this one as well, you don't have Drew Brees back there. You don't have Matt Ryan. At the end of the football game, if the Eagles are winning, one of the most amazing stats I've seen in the last couple of years in the NFL, which only pertains to this year for the Philadelphia Eagles, have not given up a single point in any game with 2 minutes or less in the fourth quarter. That's an amazing stat. That's a pressure builder. That means when everything is on the line, this Eagles defense steps up and says, you ain't getting in the end zone. You're not even kicking a field goal. Close game, advantage Eagles here at home.
Jeff, you agree with that?
Poor Jeff. He's having a just.
Yep, I'll read his lips.
Day.
Yes, I do agree with Donnie. He's a very good handicapper.
I guess you guys can't hear. I had a dog barking in the background. I don't know. I guess you guys aren't hearing it.
What are you, my house? Jesus.
His audio's cutting off. He's got dogs barking in the background. What more could go wrong?
No, you guys missed it. I'm doing it on purpose. We're all about the dog this weekend in Philadelphia. We got dog masks everywhere. And yes, they are encouraging the dog mask in Philadelphia. There's an inundation of German Shepherd creepy masks around the town. I got to tell you guys, last night, okay, I tried to get one of these dog masks. I went on Amazon. I figured, hey, maybe I can get one by tomorrow, or I'll just go out and get one. I go on Amazon February 9th. I can't wait till February 9th. I need a mask today, tomorrow. Listen, it's all about the Eagles, okay? It's all about the under. That's the big play in this game. The under's the play, 38.5. That's the way I'd look in this game. But I'm going to look at the Eagles as well. Donnie made the perfect point. You don't have to worry necessarily about that elite quarterback coming in here. It's not Matt Ryan. It's not Drew Brees. It's Case Keenum. And again, has he played well this year? Sure he has. But he's not those guys, no matter what he does. He's still a journeyman backup quarterback. I don't necessarily worry a ton. I don't have to see Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram. I got to see Latavius Murray and McKinnon. Is Murray even in there? I feel like I haven't seen him in forever. Jerick McKinnon, those kind of guys. Thielen, Diggs, very nice players. We saw Julio Jones last week. It's not exactly something this team hasn't seen. And listen, Donnie made the point about the last 2 minutes of the game. This team has been good in general at home defensively. They've been near elite. Okay, these are probably, other than Jacksonville, they are the two best defenses in the league. Look, well, Nick Foles, I think you have to continue to tailor the same game plan around him. I don't think you're going to see as many turnovers as Donnie mentioned. You got, if there's no turnovers in that game, who knows if the Atlanta Falcons even score? I mean, one of their touchdowns was set up by the muffed punt. The other one was set up by a fumble by Ajayi. So if you just take care of the football in this game, also, who knows if Andrew Sendejo is going to play for the Minnesota Vikings? This isn't like an ankle injury. This is a concussion. If he's in concussion protocol, there's nothing you can do. He has to adhere to what the league says. For me, I just think the home atmosphere this week is – I thought, Donnie, maybe you can agree with this. I thought last week was the loudest I've ever heard that building. And, again, I'm not a big fan of it in general, of that building, but I thought it was pretty loud last week. Even through the dog masks, this crowd's going to be absolutely nuts, and they have a whole day to get ready for it. I got to go with the Eagles. I mean, I think they win this game. I really do.
And Donnie, a follow up to that. I mean, you bring up a lot about Minnesota's quarterback Case Keenum, but what about Nick Foles on the other end? I mean, does that worry you?
Well, I'll tell you, it worried me last week. I mean, obviously being in person and watching Nick Foles. Nick Foles wasn't very good in the first half, and he even got maybe the luckiest bounce of the year because let's just take a look with maybe, 30 seconds to go in the first half. The Eagles, like, already botching the drive on after throwing like an 8-yard pass to Corey Clement, letting like 15 seconds go off, then getting the false start, having to call a timeout. I'm screaming from my seat there. Just take it to the half. This is going to be ridiculous. And Nick Foles throws some floater over the middle into 4 Atlanta Falcons, and Neal comes up and bounces it off his knee, caught by Torrey Smith. Maybe a game changer because it allowed the over the next 2 plays, the Eagles get in the field goal position and knock a 53-yarder through to get some momentum, 10-9 down at the half. If that play is intercepted as it should have been with a convoy in the middle of the field, there's no telling if Atlanta would have scored a touchdown on that drive or kicked a field goal. But the second half, Doug Peterson went and made some changes, started using the zone read, little run pass options there, which worked to Alshon Jeffrey. And keep in mind, a lot of these drives for the Philadelphia Eagles last week, they were not starting in good field position, the 50, the 45-yard line. Those 2 scoring drives in the second half started from, I believe, the 7-yard line and the 12-yard line, which Foles drove them right down the field with precise, short, intermediate passes. I think it's going to be the same thing, but you're going to have to lean on the J train again in this football game. Lean on Corey Clement running some screen passes. As Jeff pointed out, this will be low scoring, but I liked what I saw out of Foles in the second half. If you're going to tell me he's going to go 23 of 30 for no interceptions and about 250 yards, Eagles win this football game.
That
Guys,
has,
why don't you just go? Go ahead, guys, real quick.
I was just going to say that has to be the game plan again for this game. You can't. You got to let Nick Foles do what he can do. Okay, obviously that's the run pass options, the screens, that kind of thing. They have to tell that. And the offensive line last week was absolutely fantastic. They have to play well again. Here's the concern I have for this game. Last week, and I don't want to jinx it, but last week I thought that officiating was possibly the best stuff I've seen this year in the game last week. I don't think this week's going to be as easy. Ed Hockley is a flag obsessor. He throws flags like crazy, but he does generally favor underdogs, which is a big thing. But
yeah, right, Jeff. I'll get right back, Jeff. How great was it to have no offensive holding penalties? Yeah. It's awesome when it works out. You're right. Go ahead.
No, it was great. It was a great flow, and I'm sure people that neutrally watched the game as well. You know, Ian and you guys. I'm sure you could comment and say that it was as well. It was a good game. It wasn't stopped constantly. A lot of these little things, kicking game, that sort of thing. They just can't turn the football over. If they turn the ball over like they did in the previous game, I don't think they're going to win. Minnesota will capitalize off that. But again, it's 3.5. It's not a pick 'em.
Yeah, and we got to talk about the job Jim Schwartz has done. He's done fantastic with this defense, and he's going to start getting concerned if you're an Eagles fan because he may be getting the knock on the door for a head coaching spot down the road again with the job he's done with this defense. But like I say, I love the points Donnie and Jeff made about the Eagles because you can make good cases here. For both sides in this game, but that's the cases you make for Philadelphia. I'm still seeing on Twitter people saying this, making the case for Philadelphia, and there's nothing wrong with making a case for Philadelphia. Absolutely, they can win this football game. But if you're making the case for Philadelphia based on there's a huge letdown spot for the Minnesota Vikings off such a huge miraculous win, what letdown spot? A chance to play the Super Bowl in your home stadium? That's a letdown? Come on, that's not the reason why you support Philadelphia. You support it using tangible reasons like what's going to happen on the field from a matchup standpoint, coaching standpoint, what the line is. That's all there is to it.
I'm also seeing one of the chatters has mentioned that Halapuli Vadi Vaitai is going to get abused by Everson Griffin. I got to tell you what, Vaitai's been fantastic.
He played good last week, though. Yeah.
He really has. And look, Everson Griffin's a nice player, but I mean, give Vaitai a little respect. I mean, he's been really good. The whole offensive line's been fantastic. I mean, when you lose Jason Peters, your all-pro Hall of Fame, left tackle, it's concerning, but he's been real good. And again, I mean, who knows? He could play poor, but I mean, give the guy some respect, Andrew. Vaitai's played very well this year. He's seen some good pass rushers already. We saw Aaron Donald down the stretch. You obviously saw last week with some of those guys. He'll be fine.
And guys, as we get closer to the Super Bowl, obviously an important part of betting the playoffs is the quarterback position. I just wanted to go around the horn and get your guys' opinion. Nick Foles versus Case Keenum, both Texas guys. We know Nick Foles went to Arizona, Case Keenum to Houston, played there under Kevin Sumlin for most of his time there. If you remember, I mean, he was a hell of a bet on quarterback. I would love to know his ATS stats in college. It was a great bet on. I do remember that. Round the horn, who is the better quarterback, Case Keenum or Foles? Donnie, start us off.
I guess you would have to say it would be circumstantial. You know, if this game was played in Minnesota, I would say Case Keenum's the better quarterback since he's a dome quarterback. I mean, he's a smaller guy, not the biggest arm. So you're going to take him out in Philadelphia, and he's going to have to make those adjustments when that play clock is going down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and he can't hear a damn thing out there. We'll see what he's made of in this football game. But I just think they're both cut out of the similar cloth. They both can make mistakes out there. But again, it's the home team I'm going to lead on. It's a lot easier to play quarterback when you can sit back there with 15, 20 seconds on that play clock, make every change you want, and you can hear a pin drop, as opposed to the other team breathing down your neck with loud music playing, and you're not used to that scenario. Case in point, I'll just take the home team quarterback. I don't see much difference between the two.
Big man, do you have any opinion? Who's the better quarterback, Nick Foles or Case Keenum?
Yeah, I think in their career, I don't know how I mean, there's not much different. I would probably say Nick Foles slightly. He has better numbers career in seemingly everything. He's got about 13, 14 odd more touchdown passes. Keep in mind, though, he has played a longer career. I think he's had a year longer. But both these guys have had trials and tribulations. They both have had good seasons. But I can honestly say I've heard more good from Nick Foles as opposed to Case Keenum. Other than this year, I can't remember. I think there was a point at one point with when he was with Houston. I remember saying I feel like that I don't ever want to see him on a field again. He looked awful at points. I'm not sure I can say that about Nick Foles. Throughout most of his career, he's looked fairly good. We remember that 7 touchdown game. His numbers are better than Keenum. Slight lean to Foles. But if you're talking about this year, I mean, I think Donnie's totally right. I think it's all about the home field. Right now, if you said who would you pick for this game, I got to say I would probably take Keenum slightly.
And Ian, would you take the 29-year-old Keenum or the 28-year-old Nick Foles?
It's really tough, but I am actually going to, because I think he's put more on the old career resume at the professional level, I'm going to say a slight edge to Nick Foles. Even though I think Minnesota has the better all-rounded team here, Nick Foles slightly from a quarterback spot.
All right, guys, good stuff on the NFL. We got college basketball coming up, at least 15 minutes of it, and best bets. Ian, let's go to you. 60 seconds of Ian Cameron, NHL, CFL. What do you got?
Yeah, NHL is rolling along, and I wanted to mention the bye week trend. That's something that is definitely bettors should be aware of. The betting angle is that if you bet on teams playing their normal schedule of games and facing a team that is coming off playing their first game following their 5-day bye week / break period, teams in that spot are 20-10 since the start of last season. So a pretty good sample size, 20 wins, 10 losses. Of course, until last night when it's a situation where Vegas, I was trying to think of the team, Vegas gets stonewalled by the Nashville Predators, 1-0 in that spot. The goalie stands on his head. The angle does not account for a goalie absolutely stealing a game like what happened last night in that game. But for the most part, this angle has worked very well. There's going to be a couple more instances and a couple more opportunities to be able to attack this trend and go after it. So something you want to be aware of. Again, teams playing their normal schedule of games facing teams playing their first game off their 5-day break, which every team in the league is going through here in the month of January. Teams 20-10 in that spot. There are a few more games still to come this week with that trend and that betting angle in play.
And Ian, real quick, we got Dale in the chat box asking, Golden Knights going downhill from now on. I mean, you know, they've had a great run, both ATS and straight up. Would you actually look to kind of sell while they're up here, sell high?
It's you know what? I don't want to just jump on the Vegas, they're going to fall off a cliff motif right now, because last night they played phenomenal. 43 shots they fired at Nashville. They got shut out 1-0 because the goalie was just spectacular. He was. UC Saros, give him a lot of credit. He was great in net for the Predators. They were good in front of him. They blocked a lot of shots, and Vegas had a ton of chances. The puck was going in one time, and they swept it off the goal line, kept it out. They're not going anywhere. This team, I'm not believing yet that they're just going to fall off. They're going to get through, have their losing streaks. They're going to have a lot more losing streaks than they have so far, but they're going to make the playoffs. They're still going to be a tough out. They're still going to be a pain in the neck to play. Vegas is still going to be a factor. Winning the cup, no. Maybe advancing deep into the playoffs, perhaps not. But they'll be in the playoffs, and they'll be a competitive, tough out for anyone they play.
All right, good stuff in the NHL there. Guys, we got over 150 people watching, only 37 likes. Give us a like if you're liking the content. Getting on to college basketball. Jeff, start us off, man. What's some buy-on teams you're looking at in the college hoops arena?
Well, I got to buy on and a fade. Listen, I think with the buy on, I got to look at the Hilltoppers. Watch Kentucky Hilltoppers. Ian Cameron, I feel like him and I have talked with this group before. I think you're starting to see a little bit of a team kind of coming up here. You obviously Middle Tennessee's your first thought process in that conference, or UAB, but don't sleep on the Hilltoppers. They've won 6 in a row. And what I like about them is they're really talented. They have 5 guys that have come in transfer-wise from good programs: Buffalo, Kentucky, or Kansas, Virginia, Syracuse. They have real talent here, and it took a little bit of time for them to kind of gel together and cohesively play. But I mean, you look at some really good wins this year. Beat Purdue down in the Bahamas. Beat SMU. Should have beat Wisconsin. I know we all saw the end of that game. Probably got kind of screwed in that one. I like this group. I think they're really good. They're 11-5 to the numbers so far this year, and I think in the next couple games they're probably going to be in feasible betting spots. I mean, they get 2 straight games coming up against UAB and Middle Tennessee. You're really going to find out a lot about, can they compete in Conference USA and maybe win this conference. They get both those games at home. I think they'll both be in good betting positions there. What I like about them is they're talented. They have guys that could score the basketball. They have experienced guys that have been there, and they're well coached. I'd only wish that Mitchell Robinson stayed with West Kentucky. The Herald did the top 10 recruit. I think if he was there, you might consider this team one of the better mid-majors in basketball. They're a team that I'm definitely looking at to bet on over the next couple weeks. I think you have some good spots. As far as betting against, I have to get this team out there because I have a reason for talking about them. And I talked with you, Drew, about this group, Vanderbilt. I mean, this group is 1-14 against the spread this year. They're 0-7 on the road to the number. And what I find so disappointing and concerning about Vanderbilt is, I told you, Drew, they haven't gotten any better. They've actually gotten significantly worse. A lot of their senior players, the Fisher Davises, the Riley LeChances, you look at these guys, they from being a freshman to senior, they've actually went backwards. And when you have a group, a team, that can't happen. They have to either be the same or get significantly better, and they haven't. Defensively, they're giving up over 80 points a game in conference. And what's so concerning about their offense is when you make them play in the half court, their goal has always been to shoot the 3. And for most of the points with Stallings and Bryce Drew, they've been good at it. 26 threes a game, they're only making 32% of them. For what that means in lane terms is they're not making baskets, they're not scoring points, and they don't play any defense. They're a horrid basketball team. I have to wonder if they'll win 9 or 10 games this year. They're a sure bet against me because none of their senior leadership has gotten better. They've actually gotten worse.
So BMOC, you bring up Bryce Drew, the coach there. I mean, we remember his, Bryce Drew and that shot and as a player, but what about as a coach? I mean, would you bet on them maybe next year as far as just betting on the program trajectory wise?
Well, I think trajectory-wise, he's a good coach. I mean, he did some really good things at Valparaiso. And look, as when you're making an ascent into coaching, you're obviously going to take this job. I mean, it's a better job than Valparaiso. But I mean, you look at it. I mean, he's actually done some good things recruiting wise. He's got Simi Chatou coming, who Simi Chatou is a top 7 recruit. That's a huge get for Vanderbilt, a power forward out of Canada. So yeah, I think the trajectory is going up for Vanderbilt. It's, can you keep these guys? They also are bringing in Darius Garland, the top 15 recruit. So you literally have 2 top 15 recruits coming in to Vanderbilt. That's huge. Now you have to go out and you have to be successful next year in the transfer market and try to get some of these seniors and juniors to come and play at your building, which isn't going to be difficult. That's very well and could be done. But this year, it's definitely Caesar to forget that they're not going to win many games. But I think the future's real bright for this team, and Bryce Drew's the guy to lead the charge.
Okay. Well, good stuff there, Jeff. Donnie, do you want to throw in anything college basketball wise, a bet on or a fade team?
Yeah, I got two real quick. I'll keep it the same as last week on the same team I was talking about. So we'll go Big Ten action. That's Ohio State. Last week, hovering around that 18-19 range. Picked up 2 easy wins last week, moving up and around that 14-13 range. I think they're going to continue that ascent over the next couple weeks. They have about 5 or 6 games still left before they meet up with the Purdue Boilermakers again. So one of those teams that getting that hot start, and they did. They paced it. What was it? Rutgers and Maryland fairly easily over the past week. One of the fade teams we're going to look at, we'll dip down a little bit in conferences. Those St. Louis Billikens, atrocious on offense. 337th in the nation in three-point shooting percentage, 290th in two-point percentage there. 66%, as Jeff always harps on. If you want a team that's going to cover spreads and maybe even get a chance at victory, shooting 66% from the line as a team is not going to get that one done. Lost 4 of their last 5, and heading into the next 5 games, they better get that victory versus Duquesne because they're going to face UMass, VCU, Dayton, and St. Joe's coming up. Not looking to bet St. Louis coming up here in the next few weeks.
That's really interesting, Donnie, that you said, because Drew and I talked about St. Louis yesterday. I actually really like them at home. I think they're a bet-on team at home. It's interesting. I do agree with you, though. They're very handicapped at times offensively, but I think in this game tonight, particularly, maybe just this game, and I'm sure Ian might agree. I think when you're getting Duquesne tonight, Duquesne's off of a 3 overtime slugfest against LaSalle, and look, they ended up winning the game, but it wasn't easy. Pookie Powell did whatever he wanted against them in that game. This could be a decent bet on spot, but I think you're dead right. Long term, I think long term though, Travis Ford will get them going. They're another group that is bringing in some big time recruits year to year. So it's not easy now, but they still get a decent home crowd there, surprisingly enough. But I'm not going to disagree and tell you that they're good offensive.
Jordair Jet. Can we get Jordair Jet back in the game, Jeff?
Yeah.
Maybe Larry. Get Larry Hughes, maybe, too. Larry
exactly. Hughes. Get him back in there. Yeah, when it comes to St. Louis, I like the job Travis Ford's doing with that program. They're going to play slow. They're going to play methodical. They're going to play good defense for the most part. And, I don't love the spot at all for Duquesne in that game tonight, but laying 5 is not the price range I like St. Louis in. I like them as a dog. I like them when they can basically just hang in the game, be competitive, stay within some inflated numbers. Laying 5 is just not the right price range I like to trust St. Louis in. So I'm going to stay off them tonight. But in terms of underdog spots, that's where I want to back them. Look what they did against Rhode Island just recently. Gave that Rams team a little bit of a battle and gave them a real tough go of it recently. So, St. Louis is a dog. I much prefer them in that role than laying 5 as they are tonight.
And Ian, do you want to throw in a bet on or a fade team?
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat the fade team because Big Man already brought it up. Vanderbilt, another bad loss last night. Mississippi State trounces them. As he mentioned, 1-14 against the spread. You just keep basically going against them until it shows that the line is caught up with them. Clearly, it is not when you start the season 1-14 against the spread. For a bet-on team, I'm going to go to one of my favorite small conferences, the Metro Atlantic, the MAAC. I love that conference, and I'm going to look to say a bet-on team is the Niagara Purple Eagles. I like the way this team is going right now. 4-0 straight up, 3-1 against the spread. Their last 4 games, 2 nice home wins against Monmouth and St. Peter's on the weekend. Good home wins for this Niagara team. Now they go on the road, and their road ATS record's actually pretty good this season. They've got at Quinnipiac tomorrow night. They play at Fairfield on Saturday. So these are winnable, coverable, in my opinion, basketball games. I love the backcourt that Niagara's got with Matt Scott, Khalil Dukes running the show for this team from a backcourt perspective. They can absolutely score the basketball. The one concern is this is not a great defensive team. They're ranked in the 300s and three-point percentage D, field goal percentage D, points per game allowed. But I'm starting to see semblances of that team trying to improve and shake things up and tighten things up at the defensive end of the basketball court. They have played a little bit better defensively the last couple of games. If they can improve modestly, they don't have to be a stalwart defensive team. Improve modestly, let the great shooters and great offense and great ball movement that you've got take care of the rest. You're going to be a pretty good team in this conference. So Niagara's on a roll, 4 straight wins, 3 covers in those 4 games. I think they're a bet-on team in the weeks to come as well.
And Jeff, what do you think about Niagara? I mean, they are an up and down team, but they're having trouble defensively. And in that conference, what Siena can shoot it from three, Canisius. So some of these teams can shoot it from beyond the arc. Would you look to bet on them as well?
I would, and I don't think for them, I don't think it's that big a deal that they don't play well defensively. The only time it's going to matter is when, if they get to the tournament, they're going to get run the fuck out because they can't defend. But in this conference, you have some decent offense teams. But the great thing about Niagara is guards win basketball games, and they have two of the best guards in the country as far as a duo. Scott and Dukes are fantastic scoring guards, and I don't know that over the next several weeks you're going to get tested a ton. I mean, Quinnipiac is a poor team. Fairfield, Manhattan. I mean, the only real team you need to worry about in this conference to me is Iona. They generally under Cluse are very good, but and they did beat them straight up. But the problem you have with a team like this is, you know, you never know with them. They don't have a lot of success with this program, but they have leadership. They have two guys that can play real well, and I don't know that defense is a big concern because I don't know if they're going to get tested. They can pretty much outscore anyone. So, but I have seen lately they played a little bit better on the defensive end. So, when you can keep a team under 80 points for Niagara, that's a win. They've been able to do that pretty recently. So, yeah, I definitely agree. They're my favorite to win this conference for sure.
And
And
why
Jeff,
I'm
keep
looking
it
to back
rolling,
them,
man.
and just quickly, and their next two games, as I mentioned, on the road at Quinnipiac, at Fairfield, 5-2 against the spread. If you've been following me on Twitter at Bobano, Niagara has shown up a lot lately in my daily Twitter plays that I post there. Don't be surprised if they show up a couple more times in these next two games. I'll be looking to back them for sure.
Jeff, on to tonight's card. Nova, Georgetown, 723, 724. You looking to lay 13 or go with Georgetown, taking the points, 159 the total? How you looking to bet it?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm gonna be getting involved with this game, but I'm not gonna be betting Georgetown here. I think they're a total fraud. I think they're a team that again down the road might do well under Patrick Ewing, but you just haven't really you didn't challenge yourself in a non-conference, and you look at it in step-up games. I mean, they really haven't played particularly well. I mean, you lose to Marquette, you get run out by Creighton, you get run out by Seton Hall. Villanova's a freight train. This they Georgetown picked a bad time to start shooting the ball poorly. They're not even shooting the ball 39% over the last 5 games. As long as Villanova continues this really good defensive play, I thought they were fantastic against Xavier. Last week, as long as they continue that and keep that mojo going there, because they had some concerns at times defensively, but they're very good on the road. I think they're the best team in the country by a good margin. They should be able to win this game going away. I just don't know that there's much that Georgetown does particularly well, and defensively right now Georgetown's really struggling.
And Ian, anything real quick on this game, Nova, Georgetown?
For the sake of time, pass. I got nothing on it. Not even interested.
Okay, Donnie, what about Villanova, Georgetown tonight? Also, the Iron Bowl on the college hoops, Auburn versus Alabama. Any opinion on either of these two games in tonight's college basketball card?
Yeah, quick one with Villanova and Georgetown. The one thing that you like in college basketball, and you can even equate this to any sport out there, what team does it come easy for and what team does it not come easy for? When you watch Villanova play, it's really apparent. When they have the ball in offense, they get good looks every time down the court. And if you flip it over to their defense out there, I mean, Jeff will attest to this, every single shot it seems like you get versus Villanova, it's contested, it's late in the shot clock, it's a deep three, you're trying to drive to the paint, they collapse down on it. It's hard to win basketball games against a team that gets the easy shot and doesn't give up the easy shot. If we're looking at this basketball game from a betting side, I'd actually look towards betting the under 159 in this, because the one thing I do know is Villanova's on the road, so you don't have that comfortable being at home at this point, but the defense is going to travel with them. I looked at the under here.
Yeah, I like that angle as well. And Jeff, on to you is the Iron Bowl of college hoops. You had anything in Auburn versus Alabama?
Yeah, I definitely particularly like Auburn, and I think Alabama's a real bet on team. I think with this profile betting wise, I think Alabama's definitely the play here. I think the public is all going to be all over Auburn here, and that's a concern for me because I really like Alabama at home. I think they're really good there. You look at what they've done this year. I mean, they're shooting 52% in that building. They've been fantastic. They're a much better defensive group than Auburn is. And I think for Auburn, you have a bit of a problem now going forward with this team reading the headlines a little bit. They have some off the court problems. They don't have their full complement of talent. I think this would be a similar spot that we see all the time. We saw it last night in college basketball. You had two teams on paper that look like plays in Oklahoma and Kentucky. They go on the road, lay in a small number, whole world's on them, and they lay an egg. This is something that I do in the top 25. It's going to be something that I'm going to continue to bet. Not full units. I'm going to keep taking it slow, but I think Alabama's the play in this basketball game. I think they will win and kind of put Auburn. Look, if Auburn loses this game, it's not that big a deal. It'll be a hard fought game. I think getting 2.5, I got to take Alabama. It just looks like a great spot to back the Tide at home.
Yeah, good points, BMOC. I mean, what Bruce Pearl's been able to do there in Auburn has been great. However, the press clippings, I mean, they're the highest ranked team in the SEC. They're not surprising anybody anymore. Ian, you factor in that into this game real quick?
Yeah, I mean, I could make a case for Auburn at Pick'em. Now it's up to 2.5. Now Auburn did sweep the series last year, 2-0 straight up and against the spread, head-to-head against Alabama. So they played very well against them. They're on a roll. They've been great on the road. I mean, they've been road warriors here in conference play. They beat Tennessee by 10 on the road. They beat Mississippi State by 8 on the road, covered the number in both of those games. They've been fantastic. They're the much better free throw shooting team. That could matter as well. But this is not the price range I'm as comfortable backing Auburn in this time around. I know they've been great. Bryce Brown, Jared Harper, Mustafa Heron. They haven't even had Daniel Purifoy this season, suspension for him. And they've been that great offensively, averaging 86 points per game, 45% shooting. Even their defense has been better than it's been in past Bruce Pearl teams. But we're still talking about an Alabama team that is 7-1 straight up at home this year as a home underdog. That's a tough profile to go against. So I'd lean Alabama, but I'm not stepping in front of this Auburn team. So I'll be on the sideline.
Okay. And guys, let's go right around the horn. Kind of running out of time here. Start off with Donnie. Best bets. Got a winner last week with Minnesota -4. Donnie, what's your best bet for this week on the roundtable?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't placed a wager on these games, but I have a good feeling where I'm going to go. And it's still football season for me, so I'll keep it in that same loop. It's a pretty easy one. If you're looking at Minnesota and Philadelphia, I'm not even going to lay on a side at this point, even though most people know where I'm leaning at this point. It has to be the under 38.5, to be honest with you. Because when you look at both of these football teams, the Philadelphia Eagles numbers, the stats are going to lie to you because Nick Foles has only been in command for about 4, and this will be his 5th game that he's going to be taking control of. You have to throw those stats out where the Eagles were an offensive machine leading the NFL in scoring. That's not the way they win football games now. And if you're looking even betting from a Philadelphia Eagles side of perspective, they're not going to win this football game if this total ends up around 48 to 49 points, the same exact game plan that you were looking for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Falcons did have a decent defense, playing well coming down the stretch, but we can all agree the Vikings defense is even better here. Yards are going to be harder to come by, and the same thing with Minnesota. You're going to take that game plan coming into this football game much differently than you did versus New Orleans. You had to be aggressive versus New Orleans. You had to take chances against New Orleans because regardless of what was going to happen, Drew Brees was going to score and get points in that football game. I know Minnesota, Mike Zimmer's a great defensive coordinator. They're going to come into this game, test each other out. The first one that blinks is probably going to lose this football game. It's got to be the under for me. I can see Stone Cold 17-14, 17-10, 14-10, 21-10, somewhere in that range to say under the 38.5. I've said it all along. NFL's not built to stay under 44, 43 points, but sometimes there are extenuating circumstances. Both of these teams want to play good defense and not turn the football over. It's got to be an under for me, under 38.5.
Okay, under 38.5 for Donnie. BMOC, real quick, best bet, man.
Yeah, I'm going to agree 100% with Donnie Wright said. I said I thought this game would be 20-17 Eagles. I'm not. He basically outlined all the points. Really quick, Drew. Tonight, Wichita SMU. Donnie and I bet casting in should be a fun one. And don't read a whole lot into Dante Hall out. It's a good player, but Braxton Key's back now. He'll fill in admirably tonight for Alabama. We have to stop keying in on injuries. These are high-level programs. They do great jobs recruiting. They have plenty of depth. Alabama will be fine tonight. But yeah, for me, I'm going to go play of the day and agree with Donnie Wright said. I hate to do it, but I think it's a great play. 38.5, I'll agree.
Okay, under 30.5, doubling up there. I'm going Jacksonville plus 9.5 on Sunday. Ian Cameron, close it out, man, real quick.
I guess I'm the only one going with a game from tonight, but I am. I'm going to go college basketball for tonight. Why are we laying 3.5 here with East Carolina? Like, I know South Florida is absolutely awful too, but I think East Carolina is worse. I absolutely think East Carolina is worse. When you look at South Florida, and you're going to look at all their games recently, they've been crushed. They've been mashed in all those games. Well, hold on now. Look who they've played. They've played the beasts of this conference, one after another. Houston, SMU, Wichita State, Cincinnati. What are those, the best teams in the conference right there? This is a huge step down in class. East Carolina beat this team 67-65 earlier this season. This is the same season revenge spot for South Florida here after losing by 2 to East Carolina earlier this season. East Carolina is pitiful. If South Florida's not much better, I'm not going to paint a rosy picture South Florida's any good, but they're the team catching points. They're the team in revenge, and they're the much better free throw shooting team. 74% South Florida from the line, just 63% for East Carolina. I think South Florida can win outright. Give me South Florida plus 3.5 tonight. My best bet.
I'd take Brian
right, good
Gregory
stuff,
over
guys.
whoever coaches for East Carolina either, too. So that's a good point.
South Florida, yep, plus 3.5. Yep.
Boom. That's it for the roundtable. We'll be back next Wednesday, same time, same place. Thanks for tuning in.
Good luck, everyone.